KTN News. Get the whole story.
The constituency returning officer hereby declares that Robert Pavel Oimeke of ID number 13818674 has been duly elected as the member of National Assembly for Bonchari constituency in the election held on the 18th day of May 2021. Constituency returning officer Benson Sumba Amoko. Signed.
Up on. Push. Up. Best this side.
Tunaweza uliwa na. Duru. Haya. Kuna makofi.
Okay, pictures we received a few moments ago from Bonchari constituency, where Benson Sumbo, who's actually the returning officer right there, has announced Oimeke, that is Pavel Oimeke of ODM party, as the Member of Parliament elect for Bonchari constituency after he garnered a total of 8,049 votes going in favor of Pavel Oimeke. That's the latest news coming to our studios, followed closely by the UDA candidate in that particular by-election, Oro Teresa Bitutu, the wife of the late Member of Parliament, who garnered 7,279 votes. The Jubilee Party candidate, Opore Zebedeo John, garnered 6,964 votes. That's the latest news coming to our studios following the results that have just trickled in from the 103 polling stations in Bonchari constituency, where Pavel Oimeke, the ODM party candidate, has been declared the winner in the Bonchari constituency by-election, garnering 8,049 votes, followed closely by Oro Teresia Bitutu, 7,279 votes. She was the UDA party candidate. Jubilee Party's candidate, Opore Zebedeo John, following in a close third with 6,964 votes. Of course, we continue monitoring the state of affairs in the two constituencies, not just Bonchari, but Juja constituency, where the tallying process was actually suspended following fracas that was witnessed yesterday during the vote counting process. Ruri Ward will definitely bring you up to speed with the victors from that particular ward by-election. Well, good morning. Many thanks for making time for Morning Express. Of course, we're here to duly inform you about the latest developments, not just happening politically, but across various sectors in the country. My name is Jesse Rogers.
And I'm Trix Ingado. Today, far from the very high-octane politics, we shall be taking a look at health matters, and today is World International Hypertension Day, and we shall be digging deeper into that, just getting you in the know of what this condition is, how to live with it, and of course, how to, make healthier decisions regarding your life. And far from that, we shall be bringing you news from across borders, across the world, telling you what's happening with the coronavirus situation in Israel, and much more that is happening from the east, west, north, and south. So do stay tuned to Morning Express. But before we get into all that, it's time for Press Review.
Yeah, quite so, Trix. Let's take a look at the Press Review. Of course, we have the dailies right here, Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. On the front page, it's all about the surprises and the upsets for the big three in the polls. Front page of the Daily Nation is all about the BBI court drama. And of course, there you have it, a picture of the front page of the Standard. Definitely interrogating why the mini poll was a do or die in that particular Bonchari by-election. So we'll definitely get to interrogate that. Most stories definitely centered on the high-stake by-election, where early results in the tightly contested by-elections in Bonchari and Juja constituencies and Rure ward, where parties associated with top political guns, Uhuru, Ruto and Raila. So some celebrate while others licked their wounds. That's on the front page of the Standard. BBI court drama on the Daily Nation takes the front page, where the 5-judge bench last week scuttled the process to change the constitution through BBI. And right now they're noting the back and forth, a day that was characterized by indecision, following that move by the Attorney General Paul Kihara, who succeeded in having an application in the High Court certified as urgent, and then later on withdrawing that particular application and headed to the Court of Appeal, where he seeks to overturn last week's ruling against the Building Bridges initiative that was delivered on Friday. Of course, those are the main stories. Just a question, are we taking a look at the international papers? Okay, there we have it. The Daily Monitor. Let's begin with that. Just taking a look at what is transpiring in our neighboring countries, just keeping ourselves up to speed with the developments happening in Uganda. Let's start there. November riots are killers above the law. That's the main question right there, where a December 5th, 2020 official report into killings names military police personnel, police and soldiers from UPDF's 1st Division based in Kakiri as those who subdued the disturbances. Of course, that following the elections, and we just saw recently President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni sworn in for his 6th term in office. DPP sanctions charges against former Busiro South Member of Parliament contestant. New developments happening right there, even as new criminal gangs in Kampala target women. Of course, security issues notwithstanding. Let's take a look at what's happening in Tanzania, where the Citizen majorly highlights developments happening in the East African country right there. President Samia to participate in the Africa-France Heads of State Summit. Today, May 18th, is expected to participate in that particular summit on financing Africa's economies, which have been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's take a look at other stories covered right here. WHO commends Tanzania's COVID-19 committee's recommendations. Of course, we saw the recommendations including the government being advised to also start aligning themselves with the vaccination drives that are within the African continent, even as President Samia tells police, don't use fines as a source of income. Interesting developments right there, especially involving traffic offenses. Let's take a look at Rwanda today. What's happening in Rwanda? Shortage of drugs looms as India grapples with surge in COVID cases, where most drugs and medicines are imported from India, and importers say the pharmaceutical companies have suspended operations. Of course, the net effect of the surge of cases in India still felt to date, not just in terms of COVID vaccines, but most drugs and medicines which are imported from India are definitely receiving a hit right there. EAC to get $65 million for health and digital projects. Good news right there. And water resources management as well, even as panic hits China's skyscraper as one of it wobbles right there. Interesting developments, even as experts advised Samia on COVID-19 in Tanzania, a backdrop of that particular report that was released advising the government on how to handle the pandemic. Over to the East African. Let's take a look at some of the stories here. EAC to get the $65 million boost for health and digital projects. Of course, we highlighted this on Rwanda Today. Good news right there for the East African community, If we can scroll down kindly, Kiir fails to meet gender threshold in new cabinet posts. Of course, this is not a challenge encountered just here in Kenya. Of course, as you can see, South Sudan, out of the 550 lawmakers recently announced through a presidential decree, only 116 of them are female and were appointed, violating the affirmative action. Interesting developments. Let's take a look at what's highlighted on the CNN page, why Biden is not diving into Middle East peace brokering. We well know years, generations, we've seen the clashes between the Israeli and Palestine right there around the Gaza Strip. And of course, the U.S. has always been instrumental through its presidents in brokering peace. And this time round, it seems Biden is buying his time, even as thousands of migrants swim from Morocco to Spanish enclave in Quetta. Those are some of the stories covered on the CNN page. Make sure you're adequately informed about the latest developments happening internationally, even as we bring you up to speed with the latest developments. Okay, let's come back locally. Latest news reaching our studios right now. MP-elect for Bonchari constituency has just been announced by the constituency returning officer. Latest news, out of 103 polling stations, we're meant to understand that Pavel Oimeke, the ODM party candidate in the Bonchari constituency by-election, has emerged the winner, gathering 8,049 votes, followed closely by Oro Teresa Bitutu of the UDA party, 7,279 votes. Jubilee Party coming in third through its candidate Opore Zebedeo John, garnering 6,964 votes in that particular by-election. Let's listen in to this particular announcement where the IEBC official actually declared the ODM candidate the winner.
The constituency returning officer hereby declares that Robert Pavel Oimeke of ID number 13818674 has been duly elected as the member of National Assembly for Bonchari constituency in the election held on the 18th day of May 2021. Constituency returning officer Benson Sumba Amoko. Signed.
Up on. Push. Up. Best this side.
Tunaweza uliwa na nduru. Haya. Kuna makofi.
Okay, so those are the latest pictures coming from Bonchari constituency. And of course, our very own Kevin Ogutu has been following this ever since the polling stations were opened yesterday. Kevin Ogutu, good morning. I know it has been a hectic evening, but thank you so much for keeping vigil. Bring us up to speed with the latest developments, even as the winner was declared in that particular by-election.
Well, a very good morning, and it has been a very busy day, actually busier days before, and a pretty busy night for us. A long wait here as results started trickling in one polling station after another right here at the Suneka CDF, Bonchari CDF Hall in Suneka, Bonchari constituency. Well, the news out there right now is that Pavel Oimeke of ODM has been declared the winner in this by-election for Bonchari following the demise of Paul Oro Oyoka some 3 months ago. And this is something that has come at a time when we are just about 14 months or so to the next general election. Now, this has not been a particularly sweet victory for the ODM party. Remember, there have been serious challenges here and there, and most particularly being the fact that we had a very heavy presence that the ODM party had complained about. We also had a number of MCS that had been arrested earlier on, and now we are glad to have a one-on-one conversation with one of the MCAs. Welcome to KTN News. The question that I have for you is maybe tell us about the kind of experience that you have. We are live on KTN News. Having been arrested, what really happened now that we have the results?
Thank you for the state. My name is Pavel Oimeke. I'm the elected MCA from Sensi Ward. I was the chief agent and campaign manager in this by-election for one, Robert Pavel Oimeke, our candidate for ODM. I want to tell the nation or the country at large, this has been a very nasty experience. That Kenya, having been known to be a democratic country, this election or these by-elections was militarized. It was full of militarization, police all over the place. Those who were sympathizers to the party and the candidate were arrested, charged in court on trumped-up charges. Some were even held hostage in police cells for long days, just because they wanted to intimidate, to create fear that this election was about the state and the people of Bonchari. And the state wanted to steal the will of the people of Bonchari. And I want to take this opportunity to say the following. One, that leadership is God-given. Does not come by the power of the gun. And those who are using the police and the power of the gun to see whether they can get leadership, the will of the people and God's will always prevail. And today is evidently enough that God's will has prevailed.
Well, we are just about 14 months or so to the next general election, and one of the closest contenders here was, of course, the UDA, Teresa Oro, the wife of the late MP. And we also had a veteran politician, Zebedeo Opore. And now, what does this mean for the ODM party as we head towards 2022 elections?
I want to tell you, ODM has been a very strong party and is a strong party in this part of the region, in the country. Kisii and the larger part of Kisii, ODM has been the party of the day, because the party is very strong. The party is ready for the 2022 elections, and irrespective of the intimidation and many other things, even our competitors couldn't have come nearer. It is because of that voter suppression, intimidation, and many other things that have happened to us that made most of the voters stay back at home because of fear. And because there was an analogy that there was a government candidate or a candidate from the Ministry of Internal Security who was being touted that, this is the man, this is ABCD. But the people of Bonchari have given a resounding verdict that it's not about what is happening in the office of the president, it's not about what the state wants, it's about the people of Bonchari and what they want.
Well, thank you very much. That is Pavel Oimeke, who is one of the members of the county assemblies of Kisii. Remember, Bonchari constituency alone has 4 wards, and this makes him a very important segment when it comes to the ODM campaigns. Well, what he has intimated there is that everyone noticed the heavy presence of the police officers here, but whether or not this was likely to sway the election results is something that we leave it right there. Of course, we have elections in the next 14 months or so, and as he indicated, it appears ODM is a strong party here, and they will be proving that the next time we have election in this part of the country. Well, I don't have much to say. We've have been following this through.
Allow me to interject.
Yeah.
Allow me to interject. You mentioned that the MCA right there had been accosted to, had actually been arrested, taken to police custody. Perhaps interrogate if he has been charged, if there are any plans. Why was he held in police custody, perhaps?
Okay, well, I'm grateful that I'm still here with him, and I think this question is best placed to answer it. We would like to get the details about your arrest. What was the allegation by the police? What offense exactly had you committed?
In this election, there were two classes of police officers. There were the ordinary police, and there were specific contingent of police officers assigned duties to arrest members of ODM. These were headed by the DCI Gesonso and the DCI Kisi Central. These were the men in charge, and every time they were arresting us, they kept saying it's instructions from above. It's instructions from above. And at some point, they could frustrate us. Even when we go to the police cell and ask them to give us police bond or cash bail, because some of these offenses are available. But because they were under pressure from the office of the president, the internal security minister, they couldn't let us leave because they were under instructions to ensure that they have suppressed the feelings of the people from this part of the country.
So what exactly were your charges reading?
One of is voter bribery. Like the incident that happened today, I am the chief agent of the candidates. I was going around placing agents in various polling stations. Now, in the process of doing that particular activity, then my colleague whom we were together, the DCI Gesonso came and just picked him and said, it has been alleged that you've been bribing voters. Then I asked him, we are only two of us. Who is being bribed in this instance? Is he bribing me or am I bribing him? And because they were having a specific assignment to arrest, they arrested him. And, funnily enough, the police station here is Gesonso. They took him to Gesonso, booked him, and they took him all the way to Karoka. The reasons, we have no explanation up to this hour. Okay. Yes.
Well, those are some of the reactions there, a bit of the details with regards to what had transpired. The question about why they were being arrested, it has come out clearly. But we thank God that apart from what had been witnessed, we had a relatively calm session right here at the Tallying Center. And as we've already reported, we now have a substantive, an elect for the Bonchari constituency, Member of Parliament. So that is the match, that's where I'll have to leave it. Back to you in studio.
Okay, many thanks, Kevin Ogutu, especially for keeping vigil as the vote counting was ongoing. Well-deserved rest you will get right there, even as the latest is reaching our studios on that particular Bonchari by-election where the ODM candidate Pavel Oimeke has actually emerged the winner after garnering 8,049 votes in that particular by-election. UDA candidate Oro Teresa Bitutu coming in second, 7,279 votes, with Jubilee Party's candidate Opore Zebedeo John with 6,964 votes. Of course, there was talk within the political circles that this was a litmus test coming this close to the general election, and it would definitely be a test as to the popularity of various political figureheads within the larger Nyanza region and Kisii as well. Of course, it was pitted as a race between the ODM party leader, Raila Odinga, squaring it off with UDA's purported leader, Dr. William Ruto, who was seeking to make inroads into this particular area that is perceived to be Raila Odinga's stronghold, even as Jubilee this time round, despite the handshake, actually decided to take the route of fielding a candidate who came in third, the veteran politician Opore Zebedeo John. We'll definitely bring you up to speed with the latest developments, even as we continue monitoring the state of affairs. The Juja constituency by-election, remember just yesterday, IEBC sort of halted the tallying process following a spurt of violence that occurred during that particular vote counting process. We'll definitely bring you up to speed once we establish contact with our reporter on the ground right there. Also, in Nyandarua County, Ruri ward were also heading to the polls. We'll definitely bring you up to speed with the latest. But it was a day characterized by low voter turnout, claims of intimidation, voter bribery here or there. But at the end of the day, it seems the voters definitely had their say. Allow me to bring into the conversation our panelists. Joining me in studio, definitely Gloria Uroba, youth policy analyst, and definitely has a soft spot for the Bonchari constituency by-election. We're also joined via way of Zoom by Member of Parliament Bunyasi Sakwa, who is the Nombale constituency Member of Parliament, joining us from Nairobi. Gentlemen and lady, many thanks for your time. Gloria, ladies first, I'd like to begin with you. Of course, we've had discussions running up to this particular by-election. Now that the winner has been declared, what is your quick reaction?
We are celebrating. We are celebrating that Mama Teresa Oro has actually put out a good fight. And I will tell you something, Jesse. If we did not have the voter apathy that was experienced, we would have taken this home. If you look at the margins between Teresa Oro and Oimeke, it's a few hundreds, a couple of hundreds. You'd say one polling station, actually. And, you know, this election, this by-election has been a very, very difficult one, particularly for UDA, because as you have heard, there have been a lot of challenges in terms of even the candidate going out to campaign, in terms of being allowed to literally just, do the normal things in terms of just talking to groups and things like that. And I will tell you, in Kisii, we don't have any woman member of parliament, We are not known to elect women as leaders. And so by the mere fact that Mama Teresa Oro actually gathered more than 6,000 votes, for me, it's a beautiful day. We are celebrating. And the other thing I would love to celebrate is that we beat the system. We actually beat the system, and the people of Bonchari know exactly what I'm talking about, because we were told that it doesn't matter what we do, it doesn't matter who we front, it doesn't matter how we approach this by-election, the system will take it home. And as you have seen with the results, we beat the system. So for me, this is a good day. I want to congratulate Mama Teresa Oro. As for the people of Bonchari, they did well. Those who turned out to vote, they actually, were trying to, institute change. They were trying to vote for a person who does not have any allegations of corruption. They were trying to vote for a person who has a track record of actually, leading the community. And Mama Teresa was that person. And I do hope that I see her in the next, in the 2022 election, because I think she had only 2 months to campaign. She had only 2 months for a woman in Kisii to come out, build a brand, and actually convince over 6,000 people to vote for her. That was a very, very short period, so she has done excellently. For UDA, I will tell you something. UDA does not even have structures in Kisii. UDA doesn't even have offices, you can say, in Kisii. They just landed in Kisii. But you can imagine, as a political party, they've even managed to beat the only other national party that was participating in that by-election. So for UDA, it's a big win. It is, let me say, this is a warning shot to those who think that Kisii is an ODM zone. I keep saying that is an assumption, because how many members of parliament do you have of ODM from Kisii County?
Well,
none.
One.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, this is, the Hustler Nation is actually gaining ground. and I'm happy. This is, for us, we're celebrating. This is it's a good win.
Okay, I thought
Yes.
you'd congratulate the winner as well, but I mean, due respect to the candidate who emerged victorious. Of course, this was characterized by heavy police presence. And I'd like your take on this, because on one side, the police are saying we're here to protect the ballot. On the other side, we had the sentiments from the ODM camp that there was sort of intimidation where the police were used to sort of sway the voters, allegedly. What's your take on this? Because I'm sure you're following keenly on the ground.
We definitely had a lot of intimidation. I can tell you, as late as the day before the election, we actually had a lot of, we had roadblocks where certain people, agents or whoever, were not allowed to pass to go to the polling stations. We had a lot of what you would say the undertones of the system trying to threaten, you know, the voters not to go out and vote, particularly in our strongholds. When I say our strongholds, I'm talking about Mama Teresa, because I was supporting her candidature. We had a lot of, you know, in the last month of the campaigns, we tried really hard to sort of, you know, go out there and do whatever it is we can during this pandemic. Remember, the gatherings were actually banned. We didn't, you know, it was a difficult campaign period.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, in terms of voter intimidation, definitely 100%. Remember the last by-election in Kiamokama, we witnessed the same. The only difference now, and the reason why the UDA candidate was not particularly targeted and attacked as much as we were in Kiamokama, is because, one, she was a woman, and she was the widow of the late MP, and so therefore the system knew that they would look bad, and so the fight between ODM and Jubilee actually, to some extent, was beneficial to UDA, because there was a lot of pull and pull between Oimeke and Opore, and you know, they were hoping that the handshake would actually produce one candidate, which that wasn't the case. So I think, you know, moving forward, this is what I'd say, Jesse. People have actually realized that there is a method and there is potential to beat the system. And that's what happened. As much as there were arrests, as much as there were roadblocks, as much as there were, you know, the heavy presence of the police, which kind of scared particularly the older women, who, by the way, were going to vote for Mama Teresa. So that's how we lost the few hundreds that we could have gotten to actually take this thing home.
Okay. So what change of strategy, perhaps, will you apply come 2022? Because as much as Teresa did a good job, the winner is the ODM candidate, Pavel Oimeke. So where did they outsmart you guys?
They didn't. They didn't. They are just lucky that our voting bloc for Mama Teresa was largely the women. It was largely the older women, largely the older generation. And, you know, for them, that was easily, the numbers were easily put down because they were afraid to go to the polling stations.
Okay.
So I think we did well. We had a really rigorous campaign team on the ground. We had a proper structure in terms of even guarding the votes, you know, our agents. You know, we learned from the Kiamokama by-election where our agents, most of them were bought off, you know. They were literally, it's almost as if we didn't have agents.
Okay.
So I will say that the only thing that we can do better is to ensure that our voters are not intimidated to the extent that they're afraid to go and vote. I'm telling you, if we did not have that voter apathy because of that intimidation by the police, I am telling you today, Jesse, the few hundreds that Mama Teresa did not get would have been there in thousands, because the women would have come out, the older generation would have come out, and even most of the youth who did not want to support a candidate who has graft allegations would have come out in numbers, and we could have taken this thing home.
Okay, well, we'll definitely see how it all plays out. Definitely kudos to the victors in whatever capacity. Let me cross over to Bunyasi Sakwa, who's joining us via way of Zoom. Of course, you're a veteran politician. I'm sure you've definitely gone through a couple of by-elections. Perhaps your quick take on the various things you observed that stood out during this particular round of by-elections in Bonchari.
I think, thank you very much, Jesse. The one thing that comes clearly is state interference. or attempts by persons who have access to authority. And I think it's a blot on our system. I think we should allow these kinds of things, particularly by elections, to take place unhindered. That for any one party tells the sense of that real popularity. But I think there are so many attempts, and they sort of disguise what the reality is. Clearly, the winner now has come out, and we have to accept that as it is. And then I guess it gives a big morale boost to the party, to the ODM party. And finally, it will be where the truth lies will come out of the next year election next year. It does sound like there are a lot of attempts to harass and intimidate, and that's not a terribly encouraging thing.
Okay, well noted. We'll definitely come back with more on the Bonchari constituency by-election. Allow us to shift focus briefly. It's not just Bonchari that was going to the polls. Of course, Juja members, voters rather, headed to the polls in terms of electing their member of parliament following the demise of Wakape in early this year, around February. Our very own Emmanuel To has been on the ground since yesterday. Emmanuel, I know it must be tiring, but kudos for the good job in keeping us up to speed with the latest developments. Let's start with exactly what happened yesterday, even as you bring us up to speed with if the tallying process has continued as of now.
Well, good morning to you, Jesse. It is a cold morning, both physically and, of course, figuratively. Since last night, around 10:30 p.m., we've not seen any further results streaming in from the IBC portal or the IBC screens that are here in this hall in Mangu High School. This is the main tallying center. And, of course, we haven't seen anything since the conflict and the issues that were here last evening, where some of the officials, some of the agents that were accompanied or were in the company of the governor of this county, Dr. James Nyoro, interrupted the activities that were going on. One of the members, one of the people that was sitting with the governor last evening walked straight to the dais, and he banged some tables there and asked the IBC officials to clarify and say where they're getting the details that they're streaming there from. And of course, that had to call the involvement of the police, and many of them were deployed here, and they're still here in large numbers. And since last evening, we've not seen any activities going on. We saw the IBC chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, sending a statement saying that everything, the tallying process will be suspended until normalcy returns. So we are still waiting to see when that normalcy returns. But since around 11 p.m. last night, we've seen some calm coming in, and we are still yet to receive further results. But as of last evening, we had about 16 polling stations reporting the results out of the 184 polling stations scattered across the Juja constituency. And among them, out of all those, George Koimbori of the People's Empowerment Party, a party that is linked to the Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria, was leading by 850 or so votes. And the closest rival in that race, Susan Njeri Wakape of the Jubilee Party, was second with about 400 votes. So that was the situation at that point, and we saw a lot of reactions, of course, coming in concerning the skirmishes that we saw here last evening, and we saw some of the members of Parliament, of course, from the Tangatanga wing, saying that they were not being accorded a very comfortable or safe environment to conduct their processes. Their agents of different parties were asked to leave this venue for quite some time, and some of them have not even made their way back in here since that process that happened last evening. And of course, as was witnessed in other by-elections, there was high voter apathy. We saw about 15% of voters turn up to vote. And of course, this was related or was attributed to the fact that yesterday was a working day. Some of the voters or the residents of this area also saying that there was no need to elect a new member of parliament since the ones that were being elected were not doing their job as they should have been doing so. But we are waiting to see. Anytime from now, we've seen the returning officer, Justice Mbidi, already inside the building to make sure that maybe we are going to receive the results coming in anytime from now, and maybe later in the afternoon we'll be knowing who the winner of this race will be. Jesse.
All right, many thanks, Emmanuel To. We definitely hope for a resumption in the tallying process, but we'll definitely keep our viewers updated. That is the latest from the Juja constituency by-election. The tallying process, of course, was suspended yesterday following alleged foul play claims from one section of those who are monitoring the tallying process. The police officers definitely moved in to calm the situation, but we haven't seen a resumption as of yet. But our very own Emmanuel To has been on that beat for us. He'll definitely keep us informed once it resumes. I'd like us to discuss briefly about the scenes that were witnessed yesterday. Emmanuel To has mentioned voter apathy. So it was characteristic of the by-elections, not just in Bonchari, Gloria. And I'm sure it's not just the UDA candidate who was affected by voter apathy. But be that as it may, let's talk about Juja. What say you about these claims of foul play and how exactly they were handled by an elected leader, in this capacity, the governor of Kiambu County, James Nyoro?
You know, I think we are sort of maturing into this whole political field. I think that as much as we've had some serious challenges in terms of, you know, the processes, the transparency of the processes, IEBC agents, you know, all this intimidation, either by the, from the police to the agents, I think one of the things that I want to appreciate is the fact that there are a lot of Kenyans who are willing and are actually actively highlighting when something happens, you know. The whole of yesterday, we were getting videos, you know, people saying, you know, there's this kind of bribery, there's this, and, you know, so we are sort of getting to a place where we understand that we also have to guard the vote. My assessment, particularly on the two by-elections that happened yesterday, is that the stakes were high for the political parties that were involved. The stakes were high in Kisii for Jubilee Party because, you know, we are trying to get to a place where Kisii will actually finally be seen to have a sort of regional kingpin. And I think that's the reason why there's a lot of sensitivity. That's why we saw ODM holding press conferences and particularly trying to highlight that they're being intimidated. So for me, the one thing that I will appreciate is that Kenyans, as private citizens, are actually coming out, highlighting the flaws or the flawed processes, highlighting if there's anyone who's actually trying to bribe or, you know, conduct what do you call it? Conduct things that are against the election process. Okay. So for me, I think what I would say is this was a sort of awakening to the politicians who think that come 2022, when we have the general elections, that they will do their usual, you know, their usual shenanigans. This was a wake-up call also for what we call the system that thinks that, you know, it doesn't matter if this is our stronghold, we field a candidate and they're going to... We are seeing what is happening with Juja. We're seeing actually the numbers that are coming out and, you know, who has actually won the election.
It's too early to call.
It's not really.
It is. Majority of the polling stations haven't given...
But as far as we have seen, before the disruption of the tallying center and all of that, it was actually going well for UDA. Yes. And that's something...
rather.
Yes, sorry, for PED. You know, PED, yes. UDA, potato.
Same thing, yeah.
But it was going well. So okay. I think it's a matter of time before most of the candidates come 2022 will understand that actually they have to sell their manifesto. You can no longer ride on a political party. You can no longer ride on the fact that maybe you have been in politics for a number of years. Kenyans are actually waking up to say that this is the kind of leader that we want.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sakwa Bunyasi, Just briefly, your take on the scuffle that broke out last night during the tallying at the Juja by-election tallying center at Mangu High School. What's your take on this?
I don't have information other than what is in the media already. So this is to mind from the little information we have. These kinds of antiques are normally quite well done to distract attention. And sometimes in some parts of the country, it has turned out that by doing so, they might be able, in the old days, they might be able to actually change the vote or throw votes in for counting. But I don't know if that was the case in Mangu. I think it's just a matter of people feeling free that you can intimidate like that or mess up and nothing gets done. I would expect such a person is arrested and truly charged the very next day, possible, so that people don't get encouraged to go into those kinds of antiques. I think it was unfortunate. It seemed that the race was rather genuinely competitive, very competitive, because as you look at the national issues in that region, in this region of the country, in many ways, these outcomes are a kind of plebiscite on the presidencies, on the president himself, not presidency, on the president himself. So the stakes seem high in that regard. So you can expect that with that tension, these kinds of things would happen.
All right, well noted, Sakwa Bunyasi. We'll definitely continue interrogating even the bigger picture that plays out in this particular by-elections. But allow us to bring you live pictures from Mangu High School, that is the Juja by-election tallying center. We understand that IEBC's leader, Wafula Chebukati, the CEO, is right there. As you can see, he's made his way perhaps to give the way forward on the suspension of the tallying process that occurred yesterday evening in this particular by-election. Of course, we anticipate the way forward from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission following that suspension of the vote counting, as our reporter Emmanuel Tor informed us. A scuffle broke out last night right there as various leaders actually brought up issues to do with the tallying process so far. Hence, police officers decided to put a halt, and IEBC as well released a statement suspending the tallying process until normalcy resumes. I guess the site of Wafula Chebukati might hint at normalcy resuming at that particular by-election, the tallying process rather, in Juja. We expect a statement from the IEBC any time from now, perhaps hinting at the way forward in terms of the vote counting process. Remember, it was halted just yesterday. Less than 20 polling stations had actually filed results, which were streaming in right there at the tallying center. We'll definitely keep you updated on that, even as our reporters on the ground are definitely staying keeping vigil to inform you about the latest developments. Allow us to take a short break. When we come back, of course, these by-elections were touted as a litmus test. This close to the 2022 general election, we interrogate the question, is Ruto making infields in central Kenya, much to the dismay of the Kieleweke side of the Jubilee Party, even as we evaluate the high stakes that was in the Bonchari by-election, which was pitting the ODM party leader Raila Odinga on one side. We have the UDA with Dr. William Ruto, the deputy president, on the other side. And of course, Matiang'i, who is a technocrat, by the way, but was touted to use this as a litmus test in terms of his influence in the Abagusi region. Stay with us. We'll be back with more.
This is KTN News.
Salad vegetable cooking oil is the clear-flowing secret to tasty meals. Buy 5 liters of Salad vegetable cooking oil today and get 250 grams of Zesta tomato sauce for free. Iflo kama salad. Salad vegetable cooking oil available in all cooking outlets countrywide.
Introducing the new salad oil with a spout for easy use. Comes packed with omega-6 and 9 and vitamin A and D, and at a price that doesn't dent your wallet.
Leo utakula nyumbani.
Salad, siri ndio hiyo.
BBC Money Daily is back. Your bite-sized snapshot of what's hot in business and beyond. While the African economy has been down, it definitely hasn't been out and is slowly getting back on its feet. We are here to give you the very latest, showing you how businesses across the continent have managed to keep the wheels of commerce turning, even in crisis. We will feature the continent's brightest experts to help you and your business go from surviving to thriving. Join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. See you then.
Wholesale buyer of farm produce looking for constant and reliable supply of produce. Introducing Vuna, the wholesale marketplace for fresh produce. A joint project by Standard Group's Farm Kenya in partnership with Agid. With the Vuna Market, you can say goodbye to uncertainties of procuring produce in bulk. Vuna Market connects wholesale buyers to a network of verified farmers working through reliable bulking centers countrywide with the benefit of standard weights, measures, and packaging, as well as transparent pricing for agricultural commodities that can be viewed at www.vuna.co.ke. Download the Vuna app for free today from the Google Play Store to have constant access to a consistent and transparent marketplace at the palm of your hand. And if you are a farmer looking to supply your produce at competitive prices, you can get in touch with the closest bulking center near you by emailing us on farmkenya@standardmedia.co.ke. Farm Kenya, working to secure your growth.
Now comes in the header. This is going to be a foul.
Giselle Ansley with the drag kick from penalty corner. And a cross, Varney's in support as well. He might not need any of them.
This is KTN News.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with Morning Express. Of course, we continue to follow up on the by-elections that were just concluded yesterday. The tallying process is ongoing in Juja constituency, but in Bonchari, the winner has been declared. The ODM candidate, Pavel Oimeke, has emerged the winner. The final tally out of the 103 polling stations in Bonchari, definitely affirming his victory. A quick correction right here. It seems the second candidate was from Jubilee Party. Opore Zebedeo John actually garnered 7,279 votes, followed by the UDA candidate coming in third, Oro Teresa Bitutu, with 6,964 votes. We'll definitely continue monitoring the state of affairs right there, but it definitely points to the bigger picture, the national politics at play in the by-elections. I'd like to begin with you, Sakwa Bunyasi, Member of Parliament, Nambale constituency, joining us via way of Zoom. Let's start with the scenes that characterized Bonchari by-election. Of course, heavy police presence. I know earlier on you mentioned about the state factor and the intimidation as well. Talk to us about how important this by-election was going forth.
Just it's now, since we don't do honest polling prior to elections, by-elections give us a sense of the barometer of the political status. And I think the Bonchari was extremely useful because CS Matiang'i is trying to show his strength from the rear in Bonchari, working through and now. It's always difficult to say which of the parties. It looks like he has his hand also in ODM because I guess he's weighing his options. He has his hand in Jubilee. And when you see a large number of police presence, sometimes exceeding voters in some stations, then you know that something is not right, that a certain outcome is being sought. And that's normally very, 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 very destabilizing for ordinary voters who do not want to get into trouble, either through injury or harassment, simply because they're casting their vote. That's the sad part. That I think that the outcome would not clearly reflect relative popularity because of the intensity of state resources in the picture, including police presence. So it will make parties happy, but I don't think it's a good predictor of 2022.
Okay, interesting right there. And perhaps you watched the story by Duncan Haemba just yesterday evening. Allow us to replay it right now. He was interrogating the question on why Bonchari seems to be a do or die and the national politics that was at play in this particular by-election. Take a look.
It is this heavy deployment of boots on the ground in Bonchari constituency that seems to have rattled, unsettled and perhaps intimidated many who have turned their political arsenals towards Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i. Security officers are reported to have made several arrests prior to and during the by-election, a move that has enraged ODM and UDA parties.
Mtu ambaye anajificha nyuma ya bunduki, mtu ambaye anajificha nyuma ya kirauni, mtu ambaye anajificha nyuma ya polisi na tear gas, huyo sio mwanasiasa.
My friend Fred Matiang'i, do not misuse your powers.
A section of senators, some being victims of by-election arrests, want top officials in charge of security summoned to parliament to explain what they allege is blatant contravention of Article 29 of the Constitution.
Why should we allow the police to operate under instructions emanating from individuals to replace Article 29A of the Constitution, which expressly prohibits arbitrary deprivation of freedom without a just cause?
The involvement of police force in carrying out sectarian political interest is a threat to national security.
Deputy Inspector General of Police Edward Mbugwa has refuted the allegations leveled against security organs, saying, and I quote, "Police are on the ground to facilitate peaceful and orderly conduct. Anyone who has been caught in violation of the law has been arrested with incontrovertible evidence and will be presented before a court of law." End of quote. For the first time, handshake partners Jubilee and ODM are locking horns in a by-election, with Deputy President Ruto's new political refuge household, UDA, also in the mix, which raises stakes in the by-elections.
ODM has very high chances of carrying the day. That will be a big humiliation for the president and the CS. If that comes out, and we have seen the noise, this will be the last of the handshake.
Then there is the Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i factor, who comes from the neighboring South Mugirango constituency, but has been heavily felt in Bonchari by-election.
This is a gentleman who is looking to build a big name for the future. This is a gentleman who has been earmarked, who has been mentioned by the big boys and the powers that be, that he's probably looking to leading not just the Kisii community, but the nation at large. So it is a do or die for him.
While Jubilee and ODM parties have been ceding ground for the other depending on political dynamics in past by-elections, for the first time they are engaged in a fierce political fight. Will the friendly fire burn and break their bond depending on who floors the other?
Information we're getting here is that we are being pushed to the wall. If Matungu was a slap in the face, Bonchari is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Today you have seen the foot soldiers of Raila Odinga pushing so hard and blaming Matiang'i, but in essence, they are blaming President Uhuru Kenyatta.
The issue of handshake is out of question. Handshake is here to be. The only time it will break is whether BBI goes through or not. The Bonchari by-election is really a small issue. The Juja by-election is a small issue when you look at the bigger picture.
All eyes will be in Bonchari to see how the cookie crumbles. Duncan Hemba, KTN News.
Well, the cookie has definitely crumbled. The ODM candidate emerging victorious in that particular by-election. Allow me to read a tweet from the ODM party leader Raila Odinga, centered on the police brutality. What we have witnessed in the by-elections in Bonchari and Juja is an abuse of police powers and an arrogant display of impunity by a few overzealous and bellicose government functionaries. An election process is an opportunity for the voters to express their will at the ballot and not an